All right, so today we're going to be diagnosing a problem on a 2007 Acura TL Type S with a 3.5. This car actually came to me from another shop, but it was not a transmission shop. Shop around the corner. Sometimes they send us transmission work. They call me. I help them out whenever I can. So they had the car there doing some work on it, like control arms, ball joints. Obviously they did some work to the transmission because just kind of looking under the hood, I see a new solenoid was installed. And then after everything was done, something happened. There's a problem with the car that they think pertains to the transmission. So they had it for a few weeks. I guess they really can't figure out what's going on. So they called me, asked me if I would take a look at it. So he says, we have, there's 3 problems with the car. I said, okay. He says, number 1, with the engine running, the car will not come out of park. All right, to get it out of park, we got to shut the engine off, key to position 2, and it'll come right out of park. So in order to start it, we got to put it in neutral. Okay, so they put the car in neutral, start it up. He says, the only way we can get it into drive, with the engine running, if we try to go from neutral to reverse, we can't even get it into reverse. The shifter won't move. So we drop it into drive, and then it'll go right into reverse. No problem. Okay. I didn't even ask him really how the car drove, but they didn't really say anything about that. And he says the third problem is we're just kind of sitting there in park, and the speedometer is reading 20 miles an hour. I said, okay. Yeah, I said, I'll kind of take a look at it. So we get the car here, and I start it up, and I see the, exactly what he said is it's doing, but then I see put it into neutral, and I see the speedometer is reading 20 miles an hour, and I drop it into drive. All of a sudden, the speedometer goes to 0. So right then and there, I kind of knew what's going on with the car. So we're gonna go through it to show you what they did wrong. So the next step we're gonna do is I'm gonna put the scan tool on, and I'm gonna custom, what we wanna do actually is when we put the scan tool on, we're gonna use some of the main inputs for the transmission that report back to the computer so the computer knows what's going on, all right? And 2 of the main inputs that we're gonna use that I'll put on the scan tool, we're gonna customize the data list just for the 2 sensors, is the input and output speed sensors. All right, now, the way the speed sensors should work, if everything is working properly, if everything is, if everything is good with the transmission, a proper way it should work, is when we start the car up, we're going to see a reading on the input speed sensor, sitting there in park, engine running and idle, kind of mirrors the engine RPM, and nothing on the output speed because the car is not moving. When we drop the car into drive, we're going to see the input speed sensor go to 0, and the output speed, of course, will still be 0. And then when we start to drive off, we're going to see a reading on both the input and output speed sensors. So that's what we want to see when we start the car up here, just sitting in park. All right, so I'm going to show you how the shifter won't come out. I'm going to go through all that, and then we'll take a look at the scan tool and see what we see. All right, so I will be right back, and I'm going to set the scan tool up. All right, so I'm sitting in the car now. I'm going to start her up. All right, and there's our speedometer in park. Okay, now let's go down to the shifter, and as you can see, got my foot on the brake. It's not coming out. All right, now let's shut the car off. Go to position 2. Here's the shifter. Comes right out. We're in neutral. We're gonna start it again. Okay. See? Can't get this thing into reverse. So we're gonna drop it in drive, and then right to reverse. Back to park, and again, won't come out of park. Okay, so there's our problems. So now we're going to set up the scan tool and put our I'm going to customize the list to put the 2 speed sensors up, and let's take a look at that. All right, so I got the car running, and what we want to see when I slide it over to the readings is we want to see an input shaft sensor reading, kind of like mirroring engine RPM, and nothing on the output shaft speed sensor, and nothing on the output shaft speed sensor miles per hour. So let's slide over and see what we have. All right, it's just the opposite. We got a reading on the output speed sensor, nothing on the input speed sensor, and the computer thinks we're doing 24 miles an hour when we're just sitting there in park. So that is why the shifter will not come out of park. And that is also why we have a reading of 20 miles an hour, or whatever the 24 miles an hour on the speedometer. All right, now we want to talk about the other problem of why do we have to drop it in drive to get it into reverse. All right, I'm going to just pause it. I got to sit in the car for this, and I'm hoping I can show you guys on the scan tool why that would be. All right, so let me just pause it, and I'll be right back. Okay, now I'm sitting in the car, and I have the car in neutral. All right, and remember, we could not go from neutral to reverse unless we drop it into drive. Okay, so I'm trying to push the shifter in. It's not going in. All right, so now what I'm going to do, watch what happens when I drop the car into drive. Okay, everything is reading 0. So now the computer knows that the car is not moving, and it will allow the shifter to go into reverse, which I am in now. I just went by neutral. That's that little reading that you saw. Okay, again, back in neutral. I'm hoping you guys can see this okay. I'm going to drop it into drive. All right, now we're 0, which is what we should have under normal circumstances, and into reverse. All right, so now what we're going to do, so those are our 3 problems. And again, the problem, why is this? Because they have the wires crossed. So we're going to lift the car, and I'm going to, it's a little bit of a tight spot, so I'm going to see if I can show you guys where the sensors are, and then we're going to switch them and then do this all over again. All right, so I will be right back. Okay, so I'm hoping you guys can see this okay. I got a shot of the 2 speed sensors. This is your output speed sensor. This is your input speed sensor, and the blue. And you see the 2 different color connectors, but they plug in exactly the same, and they have them crossed. All right. So I'm going to put them how they should be, and I'll just give you another shot of that real quick, and then we're going to go back in the car with the scan tool and start it up and see what we got. All right. So I will be right back. All right. So there's a shot of them plugged in how they should be. All right, now we're going to again go back with the scan tool, start it up, and take a look at our readings on the input and output speed sensors and see how the shifter works now. Everything should be back to normal. All right, so before we take a look at the scan tool, let's start it up, see what the speedometer does. Okay, 0 right where it should be. Car's running. Let's go over to the shifter. I have my foot on the brake. And it comes right out. No problem. All right, now we'll take a look at the scan tool. All right, now we're looking at the scan tool. See, we have our reading on the input speed sensor now with nothing on the output. Now I'm going to put the car in reverse. And you can see it went to 0. That's how it should work. Now we're going to go to drive. I think the wheels are on the ground, so I can't let it roll. And then once the car starts rolling, you'll see readings on both input and output speed sensors. All right, so let's go back to park. And that is it for this 07 Acura Type S. Bottom line is they had the input and output speed sensor wires crossed, causing all this trouble. So we're all back to normal now. Car is fixed. I'll take it for a road test, see how the transmission works, and give them a call. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you next one.